But let's get really practical with people because, when it comes to these different supplements, there's different forms of, different minerals and different vitamins. How do we eliminate all that confusion for people and tell them even specific brands that they can take to make sure their vitamins and minerals, the fat soluble, DAIC, in the minerals, trace and regular minerals are topped up so they at least have that baseline? What would you recommend?
So let's start with trace minerals. Danger Coffee, it's mold-free as tested. It's my new coffee brand, dangercoffee.com. You're going to find that when you drink it, you feel different. The body senses minerals. It's like, oh, I don't know why I like this, but it's so good. And it feels different. So that's going to get your trace minerals. From a multi-mineral perspective, a lot of people have their favorite vitamin brands, and it's hard for me to just pick one of the many, but it's pretty straightforward. If it's a multi-mineral complex and it's 3 pills or more and it's just minerals, it's going to be good to go. We've got one at Upgrade Labs that I'm working on, but you do not have to buy supplements from me. These are the least sexy supplement categories of all. I have formulated nootropics. I help make nootropics a big industry. The things that make your brain work better. And there's formulas I have for sleep and for sex and all these kinds of things. I'm sorry, but minerals are foundational. They're not sexy. But if you don't have a foundation, who wants to build a nice house on, a pile of mud? So what I want you to do is get the strong foundation. And there's so many companies that make good supplements in the mineral range. Just pick your favorite brand you're already taking. And I promise you, they're making a multi-mineral. Take that, and you're gonna like it. It's not even expensive. Like these are the things that we're all missing. It's more important than B vitamins. It's that important. They're just so boring.
Okay, let me jump in for a sec here. So when we get that multi-mineral from a quality brand that we trust, we're still not going to get the trace minerals. That's something we have to get separate.
You have to get them separate. And trace minerals, there's dozens of them. They go from trace to ultra trace even. And you would get these if you ate plants that didn't have all the protective compounds in them. What I do with Danger Coffee is we're taking ancient plants from a long time ago, like a million years ago, a long time ago. And at this point, the ionic minerals are left, and all of the plant compounds that were a problem are gone because they basically get left behind after bacterial fermentation. So this is called humic and fulvic complexes. And we get lab tested ones, and we work those into the coffee in a proprietary process that we've actually filed a patent on. And what you end up with is coffee that tastes amazingly good. You don't taste the minerals, but when it hits your tongue, your body's like, there's something in here. And it's partly electrolytes and it's partly minerals. And the reason that I do that is I want to replace minerals in my body that I know foods are taking out. And I know that when I was a raw vegan, I depleted minerals in my body to the point that I cracked a couple teeth. I was cold all the time. I got autoimmunity. This is happening to hundreds of thousands of good people who have been deceived by industrial marketing campaigns telling them to go vegan for all sorts of reasons that are not even real. And they eventually find out, like I did, when they get sick. And every time I post about this, you'll see dozens of comments from people going, yeah, it made me sick too. I tried really hard. I'm still recovering. I cannot remain silent about that. I was a devout raw vegan. It harmed me. It is harming people right now. And even if you're not a raw vegan, it will harm you. And there's all these buts. There are science-based counterpoints to each of those. So I just believe very strongly, get minerals back in your body. It has to be trace minerals. It has to be macro minerals. Do it however you need to. And if you've spent time only eating grains and beans as your source of protein, you're going to need twice as many minerals to get back. Where I am now, I have incredibly high bone density to the point that during a recent surgery on a bone, the doctor couldn't get through the bone with his normal bone saw. He's like, what is going on? Like, this bone density, are you even human? Direct quote. Yeah, I was awake during the surgery. So yeah, that kind of a thing can happen. You just have to get your minerals back. And the power, my God, the power you're capable of when you do this, it's so worth it. So dangercoffee.com for the ultra trace minerals and the trace minerals. Any vitamin supplement you like, all the brands make a multi-mineral. Pick one. They work.
Okay, let me jump in here. somebody that has been on, say, a vegan, vegetarian diet, lots of phytic acid, lots of lectins, say their system is
And oxalate.
and oxalates, their system is really depleted when it comes to minerals, but they decide to switch the diet up and eliminate those hazards and introduce a good mineral and trace mineral. You mentioned how robust your bones are. How long does it take to get there?
Sadly, if they only do that, I don't know what they're going to eat in the plant kingdom, but if they don't add some at least vegetarian types of fats, it's going to be very difficult.
No, we're saying let's say they adopted a paleo diet.
Okay, got it. So as long as they're willing to eat some animal fat and some animal protein, it depends on how long they've been vegan. And there isn't a good equation for that because when you go vegan, it damages your cell membranes by replacing stable fats with unstable omega-6 fats. The half-life of fat in the body is 2 years. So if, like me, you really reduced your cell metabolism over time on that, it's going to take you 2 years to get halfway there and 4 years to get 3/4 of the way towards replacing your membranes with ones that work better. So it could be 2 years, could be 4 years. That's just the fats. If you did what I did and you put stupid amounts of oxalic acid embedded in all of the tissues in your body by eating a lot of raw kale and raw spinach, that gives you sore joints and kidney stones. And if you're a woman, you can also get vulvodynia, where tiny razor sharp calcium crystals get in your vulva. Ouch, is basically how I've heard that described. So depending on how much oxalic acid you have, that can actually take years to get rid of. And that is the right supplement regimen and taking enough baking soda and sodium bicarbonate. So over time, you can get rid of this. And it'll even look like tiny little bits of white grain in your pee if you were to filter your pee. It takes a while to get rid of that. It's actually harmful to you. So if you didn't eat too many of those things and all you did was deplete minerals with your raw vegan diet, including lots of soaked raw almonds and all the stuff I used to do. I make really good vegan desserts. With all of that stuff, if you just depleted your bones and your cells of minerals, just restoring minerals isn't that hard to do as long as you have vitamin DAKE, D-A-K-N-E, and you have enough minerals present, your body will put them in pretty quickly. And this is oftentimes why when you see people realize that what they're doing isn't working, that the core belief they had that I had that, oh, well, I'm going to have enzymes. Of course I can absorb everything. Like this is the best diet for me and for the planet and for animals and all that stuff. When I realized it was harming me and it was harming the planet and all of that, I said, all right, how am I going to get back? An ounce of liver a day in the form of capsules is fine. I don't like the taste of liver. You probably don't need more than that. That's going to be helpful. Maybe for the first weeks, you take a little bit more than that, but a lot of organs aren't good for you in excess. You're going to need some red meat and you're going to need your mineral supplements and you're going to not eat phytic acid. And when you do that, magically, your energy turns back on really quickly. I have sat with hundreds of vegans over the years when they tried their first grass-fed steak. And it's actually an honor to be able to do that because this is someone's willingness to question their assumptions and to be experimental and to question their beliefs. And you sit down and it's just a universal experience. They eat it and there's hesitation and sometimes fear and sort of this, I'm going against something that I believe, but I know it's not working. And by the end of the meal, it's kind of universal. It's like, I feel so good. Like their eyes are glowing like, oh my God, like I've been missing this. Right. And after that first hesitant bite, it's like, you can tell their body's like, yes, I needed this. And I was the same way when I went back on eating meat. So sometimes people get mad because I post sort of humorous memes about my time as a vegan. Like, you're making fun of me. I'm like, no, you're just easy to trigger because you don't have enough minerals. And that's okay too.
All right, I want to clarify here. You talked about having liver. You just got into having meat as a plant-based person and that, transition that happens within them that you've seen happen with a lot of people that you've gotten to do that with. What I want to clarify is the DAKE. If we have the liver and we're having the meat, we still need a DAKE supplement on top of that though, correct?
You do. If you wanted to get enough vitamin K2, if you ate a substantial amount of cheese, whether it was sheep or cow, you might get enough K2. You also get some K2 in grass-fed butter. So you could do like the original bulletproof thing, have grass-fed butter. For the first 2 years of post-vegan diet, you usually are going to just crave butter. That's your body fixing your cell membranes and getting enough K2 to fix calcium where it goes in the body. So you're going to crave the butter. But if you take vitamin Dake, the vitamin D part of Dake, you can't get it from food. There's just not enough in food. And some people believe, as I once did, that, well, I should get all of my nutrients from my diet. That's absurd, because if you believe you should get all of your nutrients from your diet, you should also get all of your toxins from Mother Nature. And we're all getting a lot more toxins than our bodies were designed to handle. So the reason you take supplements is that they overcome deficiencies in our food supply and they overcome toxins that are in the environment around us that we put there. So getting enough K2 is critically important for that, and getting enough vitamin D is important for that. If you live at the equator and you walk around naked all the time and you eat the right diet, you might get enough vitamin D. I tried that. I wore just a loincloth. Okay, not really. I did go to Hawaii for 6 weeks in the sun every day, 2 hours a day, and measure my vitamin D levels. And it didn't work, but I did get sun damage to my skin. So there.
All right, before we leave this part, and we're going to leave, we got a lot more to get into. I want to make sure it's very practical for people. And I mentioned before how there's different forms of some of these different supplements you can take, which makes it more confusing. And certain ones are really well paired together. I think it's copper and zinc you talk about in the book, where you have to be careful of balancing those together. And I know there's other ones as well where they come in pairs, and it's about balancing the ratio. So how do we know the mineral part? You've got into the supplement and Danger Coffee, or getting that, getting the minerals that you could get in Danger Coffee from another form. But when it comes to Dake, how do we know we're getting enough? How do we know we're getting the right form and the right ratios? I'm confused, and I'm in this world basically 24/7. Help us understand how to make sure we're having this foundation properly balanced.
I'm so glad that you asked about that, because it is confusing. The hardest part of vitamin Dake is vitamin D, because we have vitamin D receptors that are determined genetically. That means if you have enough vitamin D, how easily can your body use it? Well, I have resistant genes. They use vitamin D quickly and they resist getting it in. So for me, at my body weight, even though I have light colored skin, I need 15,000 IUs of vitamin D, but an average person might need 5,000. And some people might only need 2,000. So the best thing you can do is get a vitamin D test to see what your levels are, and then change your supplements based on that. So my vitamin D test, I think this was from the DNA company, which is a company that I advise. They said, well, Dave, you pretty much should be living on a Pacific island somewhere. Like, you have the genes of someone with brown skin for vitamin D receptors, and that's a problem for me. So I overcome it with supplements. So bottom line, test for vitamin D. If not, the rule is 1,000 IUs of vitamin D3 for every 25 pounds of body weight. But you could vary greatly from that, but that works for most people. So in the vitamin Dake that I do for Upgrade Labs, we have that. And then vitamin A needs to be preformed vitamin A from animals. I like about 10,000 IUs a day, but ranges also vary from that. Plant-based vitamin A, called beta carotene, simply doesn't convert well in the body. It doesn't count. And then vitamin K, there's 3 forms that matter. There's K1. You need a little bit of that probably. Vitamin K2 comes in 2 forms, MK4 and MK7. And for that, read the book. I talk about the differences in them. It's relatively nuanced, but anything that says K2 on it is probably going to get you close enough for government work. And then vitamin E, you want vitamin E from annatto if you can, or at least vitamin E that is full of tocotrienols, not synthetic vitamin E. Synthetic vitamin E in trace amounts as a preservative doesn't matter. If you're supplementing with it in supplement level doses, it doesn't do you any good and probably does you harm. So I talk about how to get tocopherols and tocotrienols in mixed forms in the book. And yes, the vitamin Dake that I make for Upgrade Labs has that stuff in it. But my goal here, I don't write books to sell supplements. I educate people because if someone had told me this, it would have made my life a lot easier. And that's why I'm saying, like, pick a multi-mineral supplement. Like, you don't have to get my stuff, right? What I want you to understand is that if you're missing these things, don't spend $75 on an anti-aging supplement. Like, just don't, right? And by the way, I love anti-aging supplements. I take them all the time. But you're putting your effort in the wrong place. You're putting frosting on the cake when you don't have a cake that can hold the frosting. And so I want you to have that strong core, and that comes from vitamin Dake, and it comes from a multi-mineral, and it comes from trace minerals. Do that first before you even go to the gym.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
Chicken's just bad from an ethical perspective, from the way it's raised, and from a health perspective. If you do these things, you will live longer and feel better and have less emotional reactivity because you're less stressed physiologically. And you need this as a superfood.